Welcome to another episode of Sage Real Stories. This episode is part of our Female Founders series, where we're talking to female founders about their journeys, challenges, real struggles, and real successes together. And I'm so thrilled to be here with Linda Acevedo, another Linda. Linda is the founder and owner of Futura Egg Donation, with offices in New York and Miami, helping parents domestically and internationally. She is spearheading an egg donor agency whose underlying goal is to support parents while empowering women. And her main goal is to guide parents through the complexities that infertility causes and also connect with young women to help them achieve their future goals. A topic, an issue close to my heart. I suffered through infertility for 3.5 years, and it's lonely, and there's so much emotion with it. And so, what you're doing, Linda, is just incredible. Thank you for being here and sharing your story.
Of course. Thank you so much for the invite. Very, very excited.
So, I would love to just hear what your background was, where this idea came from, what was the inception of Future Egg Donation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the honor and privilege of starting from an IVF clinic, where honestly, this is exactly where I was exposed to this world, the infertility world. It took me quite some time to understand the complexity of how it all works, honestly. Understanding what, the function of your ovaries are versus your uterus, understanding when you need an egg donor, when you need a sperm donor, who carries, oh my God, where does the embryo go? Is it a fresh transfer? Is it a frozen? Like understanding the complexity of what happens in an IVF clinic, honestly, I think it takes at least a year to really understand everything, just the
Yeah.
terminology in itself. So I definitely had the privilege and honor to have had started an IVF clinic, which is absolutely amazing. And I learned and I was highly educated from that background. And it wasn't until there was a moment, I will never, ever, ever forget that moment where there was an egg donor in the waiting room. She had just finished her retrieval and she was crying. And, I'll never forget, we're like, oh, why is she crying? Like, there's nothing, the doctor's amazing, clinic was amazing. She was like, everyone's great, Linda. Nurses were great. Like, this was such an amazing experience. I'm crying out of joy and just emotion. And there's two parts of that. Number one, anesthesia really is a downer. So the moment you wake up from anesthesia, especially me, I like first thing that I do, I start crying. So she was still obviously she was very emotional. She had just woken up from her retrieval, and she was this 20, I don't know, probably 23-year-old girl who was just overfilled with emotion. And this specific case, I actually was very close to the intended mother who had selected her. And right after the retrieval, the clinic typically, calls the intended parent, let them know that everything went well. And I felt that same level of emotion, of just overwhelmed compassion and gratitude from both ends, right? So I heard the mom and then I heard the donor. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I wish I could connect them all because there really is such a beautiful connection between, and not necessarily just, females also, you're single men and gay men, but that's where I determined, I was like, there's a really special bond and connection here. I'd love to be able to create a space where they can both feel that connection or that support a little bit more.
For listeners that may not know how this works, but
Yeah.
essentially what you're saying is that someone who's infertile can get eggs donated to them to be
Hmm.
used for their IVF journey from another woman. And so these women who are the donors are able to help women bear children that couldn't otherwise bear children, correct?
Yeah.
And so uh, before before, I think these women didn't really know each other, didn't have the opportunity to to connect. And your thought was, why not allow them to connect in this beautiful way?
Exactly. And it doesn't necessarily mean some people do want to connect. So some women do, they do say like, Linda, I'd love to speak to her and tell her personally, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and vice versa, the donor. And then some people don't. However, I am that medium, right? Like I
Mhm.
am that person, that connection.
Got it.
the intended mother is trusting me to rely that emotion, that gratitude over to the donor.
Awesome.
And I do that, via a phone call, maybe via dinner, maybe coffee if she's local. Like I feel that emotion from the intended mother because she's expressing it to me.
Mm.
And I have the ability to basically give that to the donor and have her feel what the mom feels. So at times, yes, if there's the ability to connect, and that's great, and legally everyone agrees to that. There's different ways that you can go about egg donation and IVF, and it's definitely not an easy route. But I loved being able to be that medium between a parent and the donor, and being able to share that empathy, that compassion, that gratitude, the feeling. Like, I'll honestly, like, sometimes I cry, like when I call donors or I call parents, I cry out of emotion because it's like, this is exactly how the parent is feeling. The parent was just crying, and now I'm crying, and now the donor's crying. So just being able
Yeah.
to kind of bring everything full circle, I think, was very important. And that's where Futura really started, was
Nice.
being able to create that circle and that feeling, and understand that these are human beings. You have a story as an intended mother, and so does the donor. Like, we all have a story, right? So just being able to have everyone share their stories, share their emotions, their feelings, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be a part of.
I love this. And I think in healthcare, I have a healthcare background for 20 years. I think there's not enough of this in so many different sectors. Not enough emphasis on
Mm-hmm.
the stories, the humanity, the compassion. It's, you know, you're coming here to get a treatment. Okay, here you go. It's transactional. But realizing that we are whole and we have all of these emotions, and those emotions affect our health equally as much as our physical ailments. Our mind and our heart and our soul, just feed into that well-being. Bringing these stories to the forefront and the humanity of it is incredible. I just love that. So you were working in a clinic
Yeah.
and you decided, I have this idea. I'm going to go out on my own. What did that process look like?
Thankfully, like I said, having the knowledge and the experience helped significantly. It was a smooth transition, honestly, of me deciding, like, hey, I think I can do this. I have the proper experience and the connections and the great physicians that I work with and I still work with. And really, it was just a matter of kind of getting the word out there and letting, doctors and clinics know what I'm doing, what the vision is, my dedication, my tenacity. And, that goes a long way. And I think that ultimately physicians, they want to be, that's why they refer over. They want to be able to say, hey, Linda, here's Susie and Tom. Susie and Tom, this is Linda. Linda's going to hand hold you through the process. And not so much the process of like selecting an egg donor. Like, there are several cases where parents didn't even select one of my egg donors. But till this day, I get pictures of pregnancies, of ultrasounds, of baby pictures, of everything. So just really being able, like you mentioned, to add that human touch, that guidance, that, hey, you can talk to me. And you mentioned something very important here, Linda. When you're seeking medical treatment, most medical treatments of anything that you're doing, right? I don't know, say, someone's going through cancer, you're going through chemo, or typically the process, the treatment, the what next steps, there, most people discuss that, right? They talk about it with their partner, with their mom, with their siblings. These are, medical treatments. Maybe not everyone, but unfortunately with infertility, people don't really, women, specifically women, do not talk about it. And because there's still so much stigma
Stigma.
behind it, right? You can't,
Yeah.
if God forbid tomorrow you're diagnosed with something not related to fertility, you don't mind sharing, right? You tell someone, hey, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. Like, it's a topic of conversation versus infertility. These are not topics of conversations with
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah. And I get that. Like, having been through it, I remember feeling so ashamed. I was very ashamed that I was infertile. I was not a normal, healthy woman that could, easily bear children like all these other friends of mine that were just popping them out. And
Yeah.
I really felt like there was something wrong with me,
Mhm.
in my womanhood almost. So I think that's where this stigma probably stems from, and that, women are viewed as being able to bear children. And when that doesn't happen, yeah, it's there's a lot of shame around that.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
more we're open and the more we're talking about it, and you see so many women navigating this,
Hmm.
I knew nobody. I knew absolutely no one else that was infertile when I was going through it. And so I didn't have any examples of, well, she's great and they're great together and then look, like they're infertile and they went through this journey. So I think, you are really connecting in this way where it's not something shameful and that it's
Hmm.
beautiful. So important.
Hmm.
So you somewhat seamlessly start this clinic on your
Hmm.
own. Did you have to rent a space? Logistically, how did you actually start?
Yeah, yeah. So the beauty the beauty of COVID really was that I was able to start this remote. In essence, I really could be anywhere. We do have an office in New York and in Miami as well, but honestly, the majority of the clinics that we work with, the majority of clients that we work with, are not even in the areas, right? They're in Germany or Argentina or Spain or I don't know, Texas, and support really is a lot more virtual. So I have a lot of these calls all day, every day. And same thing with the donors. And basically, our job is to coordinate with the clinic that the parents are signed up with. So, say they're signed, the clinics, say the parents are in Spain, the clinic that they're working with is in Texas, and the donor is in New York. So, we have different people in different places, and our job really is to connect them to the proper clinics, the proper lab course, the proper requests, get them to Texas for the IVF clinic. So in essence, to answer your question, it really is most of it done remote because our parents, for the most part, they have full-time jobs. There are a lot of times where I do meet clients in person, whether it be domestically or internationally, just to, let it be a little bit more personal. But yeah, it was definitely I wouldn't say I guess it would say smooth process or transition of starting my own agency. I cannot thank enough, like honestly my background in being in the industry and knowing different clinics and attorneys and understanding how it all works and requirements and
Yeah.
rules and all of that.
Awesome. And then how about your customer base? How did you grow that initially to a point where you felt okay financially being out on your own?
Yeah, I would probably say that my clients, specifically intended parents, it definitely does help that I am bilingual.
Mm.
So there's a huge market for intended parents who speak Spanish and maybe live in Spain, live in Argentina. And if there's one thing that I know, being bilingual, is most people that are seeking treatment abroad, they want to speak and work only with someone who speaks their same language. So that was an automatic entry to a specific market,
Great.
not only by language base, but also I understand language, I know the language, but I'm from here, right?
And did
um,
you market to that base or was it word of mouth,
Word of
network?
mouth.
Yeah.
Word of mouth, 100%. Everything has been word of mouth. Hey, there's someone who can help guide you that
Yeah.
speaks your same language and understands how, this specific medical system in the US works. That's going to be your proper guide. Same thing for donors, all word of mouth. I think I've been lucky enough to be able to connect with every single donor of ours. And you know how women are, right? Like once you feel comfortable with
Yeah.
someone and you've had a good experience with one donation, you'll tell your sister, your roommate, your best friend, your cousin. So in essence, everything has been word of mouth.
Amazing. And it really speaks to your product market fit, right? Your niche
Yeah.
customer. I mean, that's a lesson in and of itself, really, is to find that very target customer and find
Hmm.
product market fit. And then that's where, I'm sure your net promoter score and,
Yeah.
word of mouth is just off the hook. So,
Yeah. You have to have a level of emotional intelligence of understanding that
yeah.
parents are not necessarily just paying for a donor to go in and go out, but parents are all, especially women, they're also going through it, right? So they're also going through it. And maybe one day they're a little like, oh, hesitant. Maybe another day they're nervous. Another day they're fearful. Like just being able to vent and being able to talk to someone about it. I think it's important. And same thing for the donors. The donors also, there will be a day where she's super emotional and she doesn't know if this is the right thing. And our job is again not to convince them, like to kind of like corner them and say, well, go. This is the only way for you to get a baby. No, this is a work in progress, and I want
Mhm.
everyone to feel comfortable and everyone to feel excited about the process.
Love it. How long when did you found the company?
Yeah, about 4 years ago. So during COVID,
Oh, right.
like
Yeah.
everyone else.
And how have you grown and where do you see yourself going from here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
Because I
question.
would imagine it sounds like you're the biggest value. How do you replicate
I
yourself to
know.
scale?
I
Or
know
what's
it's
your
so
plan there?
difficult. It's so difficult. I think that one of the things that I have to pivot towards is finding not me, right? Because you can't replicate you, but at least being able, one of definitely my I would call it a superpower, is to be able to teach and implement values. If I'm able to do that, which I am, I do think that within the next, couple of years, that's where I need to pivot towards, is just being able to teach the values, teach the purpose, the higher purpose, right, of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and being able to find people that can carry that on. I have always said I would never, ever, that essence of human touch, that essence of being able to call you and see how you're feeling, I
Mhm.
never want to lose that. I think that this is a very fulfilling purpose, not just for me, but for any individual, any woman, any man, anyone that's in this role. Your fulfillment is going to come through that connection and that
Yeah,
ability to spend time with them.
complete sense. Certainly you can't get an AI bot.
No, there's no way. I mean, they can, the AI could do so much. And honestly, you really do have to be up to speed with, what's going on with technology and like the new features. And that's fine, right? Like you
Help your
can,
workflow and to help your
yeah. And I
process
mean, even
be
our
efficient.
database, we have a feature where you can like scan your face or your picture and it tells you like, who's yeah, like your perfect fit. But I put myself in that position and I'm like, okay, if I needed an egg donor, I would never in a million. I need to talk about it. I need to hear what she's like. I need to hear her. I need connection because this is
That's
not just someone who's tan and has these same eyes or eyebrows or nose. I need something else that AI can't really tell me.
and that's your secret sauce. I mean, that
Yeah,
is it, right?
yeah,
That's your big value, and it's clearly working.
yeah.
So, what's been the greatest challenge personally,
Mhm.
as well as perhaps for the business
Yeah,
that you've seen over the encountered over the last 4 years?
yeah. There's a couple. I would probably say one thing that I always ask myself and ask other friends, colleagues that are professional career women, driven women. I always ask myself, how do women, how do you, how are you a career driven woman, right, with a full time job? And how are you also a wife, and how are you also a mom, and how are you also a daughter? I always ask myself that. I was like, how do women do this? Like I've been fortunate enough that I am in a phase in my life where I can dedicate everything to work. Every day, every minute, every hour, every second of my day, I have that luxury of doing that. But it's always in the back of my mind. I'm like, okay, like you're grateful and you know that you are special because most women cannot dedicate, all that time, just to work. They have to split their time between, being a businesswoman and being a daughter, being a mom, being a wife, being a friend. It's not necessarily that I struggle with that, but that's something always in the back of my mind is just really thinking about how other women do it, and understanding that at one point I'm going to have to learn how to do that.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I love the way you framed it, is that right now you're fortunate that you can dedicate, everything to it, but knowing that you have compassion for women that are juggling it and almost like you want to see how they're doing it so that you can
Yes.
prepare yourself.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I
Like this
get
is not
that.
going to be it forever, Linda.
Yeah.
Like this is going to change eventually. So you better
And
learn how they're doing it.
right, right. And even things kind of come up in your life that blow you up that you didn't even anticipate. Like I would say of all of the founder stories, I think that is a very common theme is the work life balance part of it because I think as women we are used to multitasking, but there's a lot of cultural still beliefs where men can just dedicate themselves fully to work and it's okay, but for women it's not. And I there's just it's just ingrained culturally. And so I think there's like a lot of guilt that comes with that and that can be overwhelming. How about for your business? What's been the biggest challenge in growing a business from the ground up and maintaining it? And
I definitely, yeah, I believe in a very in like the Six Sigma lean processes. So I would probably say when it comes to work and processes and workflows and, how many employees you have and how many clients, what's coming in for revenue. I think for that, I've had a good eye, a good sense. I would probably say there would be two things. And I always talk about this. One of them being a single founder and owner versus a partner. I think that is has been one of the biggest challenges because I do think that we have all the answers to everything in life, not just work, but sometimes you have to talk it out, right? So most people who have businesses, they have a partner that they can just call and say like, hey, this is what's going on. The other partner's going to be like, okay, well, this is what you're going to do. And I think that we all have the answers to everything. I have the answers to what I'm going to do next. But sometimes I need to talk it out, and it's a lot more difficult to talk it out on your own than if you had a partner you could just call or have a meeting and say, okay, this is what's going on. This is what we, so I think that that's probably one of the most difficult challenges in business for me specifically, or just anyone who's a single founder and owner of any business.
Yeah. That
And
resonates with me completely.
yeah, very, very, it's a huge, huge challenge, but you kind of learn to go with it. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm comfortable in being the only like owner and founder of the business.
Is there anyone you do lean on? Like, who is your biggest support for those days where you
Oh
just need
my
to even
God.
vent, perhaps?
It really varies. I think I have really good mentors. I talk about my mentors all the time. So number one, my mentors, and I probably say there's probably three or four. And then personally, I have amazing. I was thinking about that the other day. My friends, like my personal like friends who know me, are also very very successful, career driven women who they're not in this industry per se. But they have a good head on their shoulders. So I would probably say a good mix of mentors of people who are in the industry and also personal, strong, career driven women that are my own personal friends that are able to say like, okay, let's put our thinking cap on. This is what you're going to do next.
I love that. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
What do you count as your greatest win or success of your journey? Like when you kind of sit with yourself and have that smile come over you thinking about what you've done, what is it that comes to mind?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind are definitely the babies. When you see pictures of, once the babies are born, it's just, there's nothing that compares to that, honestly. There's really like that ultimate, hey, Linda, he was born today, 8 pounds. Like I cry every single time. I cry seeing pictures. I cry reading the email. Sometimes I can't read the email because maybe I have like a super busy day and I want to dedicate, 5 minutes to that email and not just read it, be like, oh, she's pregnant. Okay, congrats. No, like I think it's such a special moment when the babies are born. So I would say that's for sure my greatest win is seeing the actual end result, which are the babies. And then on the other token is just building amazing connections with the donors. They're me when I was 22, right? They just got an internship, they just got a job. So I would say from the parents and being able to see that happiness that a baby brings into their life, and then from the donors end, seeing how they just transition to different milestones of their lives, right? With school, with internships, with jobs, with maybe they're trying to get into med school, maybe or their partner, their romantic partner. So just being able to see how you evolve and the happiness that different things bring different people, I think definitely are like the biggest wins for me.
Incredible. Again, bringing that human, part of the stories to light, and it clearly is just something that's very deep within you and
Mhm. Yeah.
beautiful. And what is something that you have learned along the way that you know now about owning and starting a business that you wish you knew at the very start?
Yeah. Um, so when you're in business school, one of the first things that they do is they do the Myers-Briggs. Was it Briggs Myers? I
Mm,
forgot. And yeah, what your personality is like, and then you build
mhm.
teams, and then based on that team, you're giving your case studies and whatnot. So I'm a driver, right? So I am like full force. Let's move forward. as quickly, as strongly as we possibly can. That's my personality in general, and that's also how I have always viewed work and career.
Mhm.
Is this is what I want to do? How am I going to do it? And and I can list A through Z how I'm going to get that forward, moving forward. But one of the things that I've learned throughout the past couple of, or not just with my business, but just in life in general, that it's okay to be a driver, and I think that's good to like kind of get things rolling. But there are a lot of times where I do need to sit down and just like breathe a little bit and maybe just use my intuition. Um, and understanding what feels right, what doesn't feel right. I don't always have to be going 100 miles per hour. There
Yeah.
are times where I can slow down, slow down my gears and go down to 40 miles per hour.
Mhm.
So I would say that I didn't know that then, but it was great because that's what I needed at the beginning, right? And now I know that you can't always be the driver, where you have to learn. And again, when you have partners, maybe you're the driver, but then my partner, is the empathetic one. So just learning how to be different, I guess, personalities or have different like talents and understand that not everything has to always go like at full force.
And why not? So what's the downside of that? Is it burnout? Is it that you miss kind of the intuitive part
You
where
miss,
Mm,
yeah. It's it becomes mundane. It becomes you become obsessive.
and
If maybe things aren't going at 100 miles per hour, maybe they're going at 98, you start freaking out, because you want it to be at 100. So I would probably say that you don't get to tap in too much in your intuition. And I think that human beings, especially women, I mean, we have this beautiful, beautiful power and talent of our intuition. And I think that when
yeah.
you're able to mix your talent of being a driver and being because I'm a very practical person, when you can mix that with your gift of being a woman and using your intuition, I think that's the perfect formula.
I love that. And it's like, otherwise you may miss the forest, the trees, you may miss some big ideas because you're just focused on, go, go, go.
Yeah.
And
Or you just
I
don't enjoy life. I think that's you don't enjoy life. Like you
right,
become so obsessed with
got
that
it.
one thing
Yeah.
and you forget, like, Linda, you're the human being too. You're also a woman. So yeah, you don't
Yeah, and this
enjoy.
is a beautiful ride, to
Mhm.
be starting something that's impacting people and sitting with that. Great, great advice. Really great advice. Well, anything else you'd like to leave founders listening to this with, that are on this journey?
Yeah, yeah. I'm very, very big on just support. I'm such a girl's girl. I really am. And I think that the more that we open up and the more that we share and the more that we talk about what our struggles are, what our strengths and our weaknesses are, I really, really do believe I'm such a optimistic person. I do believe that there are other women who can support you and help you, get clarity in anything that you're going through life. So just in general, I definitely do think for any female founders to open up, to share what you're struggling with, to share your story, because there are other women who, one, can help you, two, can empathize with you, and then three, can just make this more enjoyable.
Well said. I mean, that's a great ending because it really speaks to the value of what we're trying to do at SageLink, and so thank you for being part of this, Linda. Linda is open to outreach for anyone listening who, just heard her story and it resonates. And maybe you want to dive deeper on some things that she discussed or just connect. Like she said, it is so powerful. Thank you so much for taking the time. I wish you the absolute best in what you're doing, impacting more and more women and parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so, so much.
Join our network of real women and real wisdom at sagelink.com. SAYGELINK.